Good morning, Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I just posted a Facebook story here that I thought I'd just make a video out of, and I'll show you this. My Facebook, Buddy Wayne Webb, and here's the story. Basically, on December 13th, 2014, I posted a story in my Facebook timeline called Rape and Murder, which told about a young girl that I was told was murdered at a 2010 oil show party after she refused to prostitute. My friend was afraid to report this murder and told me that high-level police were at this party. There's more to that story. My friend was leaving my home, and in 5 minutes she would be at the location of this party. I knew this because we were talking on the phone while she drove. My phone records from 432-209-6494, which is my company cell phone, will verify this. All you have to do is check it, and you can tell. This has led me to believe that it was going on in the underground facility said by multiple people to be near my home, which possibly in my backyard based on maps.google.com. And just recently, somebody says, hey, go check maps.google.com, which I just did, like I said. And then you drill into your house here, and that's what I'm doing. Okay, just zoom on in. And in my backyard, there's this huge, building facility, and that's not there on ground level. This is my home. I was shot on this side of my home. Here's Home Depot over here. So you see that large facility back there in the backyard, and I'm going to flip it over to the aerial view. That's just the backyard. So maybe that's the underground facility and that where the parties were going on at. But anyway, back to the story. Along with the story, I posted a picture of a then unidentified police officer in my home a few hours after I crawled out and survived a murder attempt in 2012, January 2012. This secret police was identified by Empire Private Investigations in May of 2018 as Midland K9 police officer Chad Simpson. He was one of the secret police that went world famous. 2 days after I posted this story, MPD officer Chad Simpson murders his wife and then kills himself. This was before he had been identified as being a secret police. It makes sense that he had a connection with the girl at the oil show party. Some people think that maybe his wife, Sandra Simpson, somebody called her, because they're from my hometown of Hobbs, New Mexico. Somebody called her and said, look what Buddy posted. And she went and read, the story of this little girl being raped and murdered and police being there. And she recognized her husband, confronted him, and then he took his gun and murdered her, and then killed himself. Because, but that's unknown. Maybe other police officers killed him because he was a secret police and he was going to testify. It's still unknown. A few weeks ago, the police report from the night that I was ambushed and shot was found after being hidden since that night, and it doesn't show Chad Simpson in my home. But it's easy to see that it was falsified as the names on it don't match what the PI said, nor does it match what the security camera shows. The log file shows they tried to disable the security camera and didn't know they had started it. Okay, and that was in my home January 29, 2012. That was called the secret police. And what it did in April of 2012, I ordered the police reports, and I wasn't given any police reports for police at my house, but I had pictures of them in my home. And then in December 2013, December 18, 2013, there was a hearing, and my attorney subpoenaed all the police records, and once again, it was hidden. We didn't even know it. So there was a police report all along that we didn't know about and just found a few weeks ago here 7-8 years later. And then when we get it, we find out why, because it had been falsified. The names don't match, the timestamps don't match. And what happened was, they didn't know that security camera they tried to disable was running, and it showed that their police report was falsified. So anyways, in 2013, the remains of a young girl between 14 and 21 were found outside of Midland. Okay, and then I took a screenshot, and I'm going to go here in a minute and show you that this was my Facebook post on that date on December 13th, 2014. And here's the obituary for Sandra Simpson, and she's the murder victim, and he was the murderer. The Midland K9 police officer murdered her, and then he killed himself. So he's the killer, and she's the victim. Okay, he chose to die. She didn't get a choice. Okay, and that's how that works in a murder suicide. One person chooses to die, the other one person doesn't get a choice. So anyways. She's also a nurse and a mother of 2 young kids. Okay, so one thing I want to show here is, and I don't know if you know how to do this. What I'm going to do is, if you're on a computer and you want to search a timeline, you scroll down and this bar pops up. Okay, so then you just change the date to 2014. Okay, and then all posts, and I'm going to change it to December. Okay, And then I'm going to scroll through all the posts on December. This is my timeline, okay? So I can go back in like a journal, okay, and say, oh, I posted on this day, the leftover man-sized tunnel pipe in December 28, 2014. Well, I can scroll down, and that's going to take a minute. So I've already got it here. Okay, December 14th. We want to scroll down. And I was scrolling on purpose to December 13th, 2014. That was the story I had the screenshot of. This is the rape and murder story. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but she told me how they were systematically drugging these women and girls at this party. And there's a whole bunch of information on the story. I'll post it under that on my Facebook, and so I don't have to read it to you here. And but you're gonna find that. And then I included a picture of at the time it was a secret police in my house wearing a Midland K9 police jacket. I didn't have confirmation it was Chad Simpson till several years later. And of course, 2 days after I posted this story and that picture, then he murdered his wife. Okay. Here's a News West 9 story, and just showing you the dates on it. That's December 16th, but on December 15th, then Chad Simpson, and they had the 2 babies, murders Sandra. Like I said, he's the killer, okay, and she's the murder victim, okay, and you can see that here. And and I've had and I tell you what, I've had more threats over this, and that people upset and because I call him a killer, but you know what, I go back and go, all you got to do is Google it. I didn't call him a killer. It was all over the news. That's well known, I mean, that's a fact, as far as I'm concerned, or at least that's what's reported, unless it was a double homicide and then cover up, he was a secret police, and that part is what's wasn't released to the public and don't know. But so when I call him a killer, it's not old buddy calling him a killer. It's like all over the news. Everybody knows that. Okay, and so I'm gonna show you the bigger picture here. I'm gonna go through. This is right from the security camera. Remember what the log files show? They tried to disable his camera. Now I'm in surgery at this time. Okay, when these pictures of the secret police, and that's the ones that I offered the $2,000 reward. I sent them pictures to the attorney general, to the mayor, and then finally in 2018, Empire Private Investigations identifies all 11 of them. The first 2 that showed up, and that's kind of important because the first 2 wearing tan uniforms was the late Midland Sheriff Deputy Mike Naylor, and then a Martin County Sheriff John Woodward. Never been explained why why a sheriff from a different county was the first one to show up at my house. And then he's followed by a Midland Sheriff deputy who's no longer alive, that died 2 months before Simpson died. So now we have 2 secret police dead and a policeman's wife, all connected to the murder time of my life. So these are the names provided by Empire Private Investigation. Remember, I paid $2,000 to get police identified because I didn't have a police report. And so we had already recognized Rosa Rodriguez and April Chandler, and they were caught lying multiple times on the reports. But interesting, this was Lieutenant Dickey. He was a lieutenant, one of the first ones. It actually, per the newly found police reports, he said he was inside my home, and calling in. It was on the log file, but my security cameras show that nobody was inside my home at that time. I mean, nobody had even entered my home, and so that was obvious he was lying. And it was that part of that false report. Greg Chatwell, I think he was a sergeant. Greg Nelson, I don't have any information on him. Marty Barrett is a crime scene investigator. That's a scary thought. Crime scene investigator is involved in tampering with evidence, because who knows how many cases this guy has testified on, how many pieces of evidence that he's touched. Okay, Chad Simpson. Okay, so here it is. The murderer Chad Simpson was a secret police in 2012. Mike Naylor, late sheriff. So you got 2 law enforcement officers dead. Mark Gilliam, Michael Glick. I don't know nothing about him. And then John Woodward. That is totally amazing because that's a Martin County sheriff or former Martin County sheriff. And he was married to the CBS morning anchor, Devin Sanchez. Okay. And CBS 7's never reported this story. That's kind of interesting, ain't it? You think there's a connection? Okay. My private investigator found a witness, okay, that said, yeah, Chad told me he was at Buddy Webb's house. He said, will you testify to that? He said, yeah, I will. But, and so I redacted the names, but this has been provided, to law enforcement. And so that they were drinking together and whatever. This was before, of course, while Chad was still alive. And, okay. And so basically I created this one. I took the names that came from the newly found police report, and I compared to the names from Empire Private Investigations, where I paid the $2,000 reward, and a few of them were the same names, Chandler and Rodriguez and Dickey. But some of them, were missing, and so there's the list, and so these people have some, the ones that are still alive, they have some questions to answer on what's going on here. And that one picture I showed you on the first two that showed up, the police report, and I'll show you in a minute, says it was Tony, Dickey, and Matt Davis, and that's MPD. Well, they wear dark blue. It was easy to tell the first two guys that showed up are wearing tan. That's what the sheriff wears, and the private investigator said it was Woodward and Naylor. So obviously the private investigator is correct, and the police report is what's false. And we already knew that the police report was falsified because, there was other things identified on it, such as that Lieutenant Dickey saying he was in my house, and my cameras there, showing that they didn't even have the cameras on the front of my house disabled till 11/22. And remember, they're sneaking around disabling cameras, and they never planned on getting caught anyway, hiding the police report, etc. Okay, so there's the newly found police report. I just got it in 2019. Okay, it was subpoenaed in December 18, 2013, and wasn't given to us. So we didn't know. If it isn't even given to you, you don't know. You just don't know it's there. So you can see original dispatch, April Chandler, Matt Davis. First ones at the house was supposedly Tony Dickey and Matt Davis. Interestingly, Matt Davis quit the police force after 12 years on the same month as a protective order here in December of 2013. And that's where some big information come out. That's where I submitted that document where the ex-boyfriend of the ex-wife said that he thought she had a lot to do with the shooting, and she threatened, and from the things she said, and she had threatened to kill him too, And so that was submitted, in evidence, and all of a sudden, Matt Davis quits the police force, doesn't get his retirement or nothing. Okay. And so maybe Matt Davis might know something. Here's some of the names. And some of this information was redacted from me, and they're hiding it. And, it's just like they hid this whole report. And even when I finally find out there's a report and I get it, I still don't get all the information. They're still keeping information from me. And I just think it's obstruction of justice. Okay. This is interesting. 47 days before Chad Simpson takes his gun and murders Sandra Simpson, the young mother and nurse, I sent his picture to Mayor Morales, and I asked, can you confirm if any of these people are or were Midland police officers? I didn't get a reply. And I copied and pasted it, and it went to most of the other city council members. The only person that replied back was this one here. What's her name? Charla Hotchkiss, and she just asked me to resend it, and so I did. Okay, so a lot of people are asking, that's a fair question. I'm a citizen. The police department reports to the mayor and the city council, and I asked a simple question: did the secret police, here they were right there, did they work for MPD or not? I didn't know. I didn't have a police report, and they didn't answer. And of course, I'm sure they're not expecting this guy to go murder his wife, And so, there's people coming around going, wait, did they, would she be alive? Would both of them be alive if they had just answered the question? Okay. And here's the obituary for Sandra again. Okay. Also interesting. Okay. And this is in a video the day before the murder-suicide. Okay. I sent the rape and murder story to Attorney General Greg Abbott, who's now governor, and the governor, Wes Perry, or Rick Perry, who's now Secretary of Energy for Donald Trump, and the Texas Rangers. And actually what I did, I sent this email called Rape and Murder, and I copied and pasted the wrong story in there. So on the next day, on the 15th, on December 15th, I figured out my mistake, and and I said, I apologize. And I sent that story that's posted on my timeline to the governor and the attorney general about, the rape and murder of the little girl at the oil show party. And then on the same day, that's when Sandra and that's when Chad murdered Sandra, supposedly. Okay, and this is right from a now deleted CBS 7 news story. I believe it was CBS 7. And basically it says, according to the official officer, was found dead. He's believed the one to pull the trigger, etc. And then I already showed you there's plenty of news stories on that. Okay. Now, here's where it gets real interesting. Around the time that this murder-suicide happened, and so there was a lot of other stuff going on. So, the question's been asked if there was a cover-up going on. Remember, in 2012, I'm shot in my home. 2010, with the oil show party, little girl murdered. Okay, so here, I take this picture in front of my house on June 29, 2014. Pay attention to all the dates, okay? Here's a guy in a dark green Jaguar. I believe it's a doctor, and he's parked in front of that neighbor's house. That's the one that had the suspected tunnel entrance in the backyard, and I believe it's Dr. Gattiselli on June 29, 2014, okay? See it, Gattiselli? Here in 2015, the husband of another doctor goes into his office and murders him over in Odessa. Okay, and the news, reading the articles, he was being investigated at the time for a money laundering. Now I hadn't brought it up, but remember, I had been told with 100% sincerity, the secret is a group of doctors are killing people for profit. And so I've long felt like they were involved in the murder attempt on my life, the premeditated murder attempt, but they're also connected with the underground facility and the human trafficking, sex trafficking, child sex trafficking, all that stuff. I'm not saying Gattiselli was, or that's why he's murdered, whatever. I'm just saying here that a lot of people have said this guy parked in front of my neighbor's house, and which was very odd, that's why I took a picture, was the same guy that ended up being murdered. And that happened in June 2014, okay? And so then, here, I noticed that behind my house, and this is right where that live tree was taken out, and the two side-by-side manholes where a suspected tunnel entrance is back there, I noticed two Suddenlink trucks show up. You see them Suddenlink trucks? And what happened on 9/22, I went back there and I talked to them. This was September 22nd, 2014. I asked them, what's going on? And they're disconnecting this coax cable that went in the ground. Well, I had already taken pictures of it and posted it on my Facebook because I had recognized that coax cable went in the ground and I couldn't figure out where it went to. Home Depot didn't say it went over there. All the homes over here, they're fed from above ground. So we had an internet TV coax cable that goes underground, and I didn't know where it was, and I was on Facebook posting about it, and then all of a sudden Suddenlink shows up. So there's a document trail. If you're a law enforcement officer, you can go back to Suddenlink and go, who was paying for that service, where does it go, etc. That's question is, was it feeding the underground facility? And that's where the little girl, was murdered. Here's my backyard, and that's where that underground facility might be, okay, in that area. Okay, same time frame. Now remember, that was 9/22. Okay, this live tree was taken out here. That's set right next to that telephone pole I just showed you. Okay, so we know the live tree was there on 9/22/14. Okay, these are Google Earth pictures, and also there's another suspected tunnel entrance in the neighbor's backyard. So on 9/22/14, it was there. Now by 4/28/16, Google Earth pictures, they took the live tree out and they removed the thing in the backyard. Okay, the suspected tunnel entrance. So that's where the question was, there a cover-up going on, and that was the same thing in late 24. So all these things were happening at the same time. Well, then, pay attention to the dates here. This is October 13th. I believe it was on October 9th that Midland Sheriff Deputy Mike Naylor dies in the line of duty. Supposedly he's out there serving a warrant to a sex offender and gets shot and killed. Okay, and so but what has never made the news is my private investigator identified him as the second police officer to show up. Now look at the tan uniforms. MPD wears dark blue. Now remember, the police report shows that MPD was at my house, but we know it was a falsified police report just based on the timestamps and other information on it. Okay, so obviously the private investigator was right. Naylor was a secret police. He was the second one to show up at my house. And and now he's dead. And that happened right there at the same time frame in 2014, October 2014. Okay. And then 2 months later, That's when you get Chad Simpson here that murders his wife and kills himself. Okay, and he was born in Hobbs, New Mexico, my hometown. I transferred from. I was born in Hobbs, New Mexico. Okay, I know people in his family. I talked to people in his family, and he was also a K-9 police officer. Remember, I have a picture of a K-9 police officer. And even interesting, I made a point. He was promoted in 2012. Okay, and so that's real interesting if you're involved in a capital murder attempt and you get promoted. And I think maybe maybe most of the secret police got promotions for it. Okay, and this is Sandra Simpson. Remember, she's the crime victim. She's the one that didn't choose to die. He chose to die. And and as I said earlier, maybe somebody said, "Hey, go look at the story Buddy posted," and she reads about this little girl being raped and murdered, and then recognizes her husband in my house, confronts him, and asks him where he was at, in 2010 and all that, and maybe that's what happened. And maybe not. That the question's been asked. It's well known if you're a police officer and you're going to testify to other police officers, your life goes into danger, and a lot of people thought Chad was a good guy. And, so if Naylor and Simpson were going to testify against the other secret police, well, they might have motive to murder them and cover it up. But that's all what if right there, and law enforcement has to figure that out. And so this is right from the news. Midland K-9 police chief Robinson said that Chad Simpson pulled the trigger, etc. Okay, and once again they had the 2 baby orphans. Okay, so there you go. How you see how it's all connected. There's more to know about this, and this has got to be investigated, resolved, and stopped.